sitting at the same old workplace. What's the point of this chase? To just bite our old tail.
Hello everybody! Playing some GodFall? Probably playing some GodFall? Want to be playing some GodFall? This is Mike T, and I'm here with a request build that I got from a player named Valorian Vicky. Now, I owe this person a thanks because I would not have explored this build sooner had they not requested it. Okay, let's get down to the good stuff. This build I call the Blinding Lights Phoenix build. I said... No, I don't need to be singing. I really don't need to be singing. Probably shouldn't sing. The Blinding Lights build is a Mark of Leeching on blind, blinding, polarity blinding, cut through your opponents like a hot knife through butter build. I am sad to say that this build is not for beginning players because it requires very specific items to make it work. It is not something that is as open-ended as some of my other builds that you have seen in the past few videos. The Blinding Lights build is a sturdy, vitality-heavy build, which is a tactical choice, which I will mention later on in the video. It does need heavy vitality. I do not recommend trying to modify this build to be might or spirit heavy. I do not think it will work out well. So the first of the very specific items you're going to want to have is a double primary that has a percentage of polarity attack charge whenever you perform a critical hit. Now, in my case, I'm using Twin Dragons, but bear in mind, Twin Dragons comes with several different kinds of primaries. You need a set of dual blades with a double primary that has polarity attack charge whenever you critical hit, or this build will not work as well as it should. The next item up in this, and you'll see why you need a double primary, is because you need two weapons that give polarity attack charge whenever you perform a critical hit. In this case, the Obsidian Blades. So why polarity attack charge whenever you perform a critical hit? Simple. You are going to be blinding your opponents all the time, as much as possible. The goal of this build is to keep your opponents blinded. Now, you might be thinking, well, what do you do about bosses that cannot be blinded? Well, I will explain that to you just a little bit later on. So next up is the Mark of the Duelist, coming in with a 94 health whenever you critical hit on my item. It's different for each item. However, you want these because you will get crushed in the higher levels of the tower and the high-end maps if you do not have some sort of resiliency tools. Next up, the Lion Talisman. Whenever you perform a critical hit, gain 6 weapon technique charge and 32% weapon technique speed for 10 seconds. So a item like this is very important because this build does not start to do DPS until you have the charges of the Northern Technique that the dual blades specifically has. That Northern Technique also blinds, so you can see where this is going. Lots of blinds going on. Next up, the Incarnate Soul Ring. Plus 42 chance to inflict ignite with your Southern Technique. Okay, I'm going to get into Ailments just a little bit because it has to do with this build. Ailments are misunderstood. A lot of people think they're bugged, but I am confident that they are not bugged and they are working the way they are supposed to be working. A common misconception is if I have 30% fire ailment ignite, then 1 out of 3 of my hits is going to ignite the opponent. That is not the case, my friends. What you need to think about is how hard you're hitting, and that percentage is the amount of times that you apply a buildup to start the ignition. So again, the percentage is only the chance you have to apply the ignition, not to apply the ailment on hit. If you do not believe me, or if you want to try to confirm this yourself, please try to use a greatsword as it hits very hard and use little ignite percentage chance. You will find that the greatsword ignites opponents much faster because of its damage. Okay, moving on. Back to this ring, the Incarnate Soul Ring. 42% chance to inflict ignite with your Southern Technique. The Southern Technique on a dual blade lashes out one of your dual blades with a rope on the end of it and pulls your opponent towards you if it's small enough, and if it's too big, it will pull you towards it. But the point is, you do not go to your opponents, they come to you. Unless they're too big, then you go to them. All right, and a clutch ring. This is a must-have for this build. The Band of Servitude. Blind nearby enemies whenever you perform a polarity attack. You see where this is going? This build is fun if you like to blind your enemies. Very fun. The next two items I'm not going to go into. They just build on critical hit chance and critical hit damage. You can switch these two out. You can do Ignition and Flame or Ailments, Status, whatever. They don't matter as much as the previous items I just gave to you. All right, next up is the Augments. Now I'm going to try to do this in order of importance. All right, first off is Implaceable. Now, become invulnerable for 5 seconds whenever you use your Life Stone. You want this in this build, or you will regret it. It is a very difficult build to play without this as a tactical tool, which I will get into a little bit later, but moving on to the next augment. White Recluse. Apply the Mark of Leeching whenever you blind an enemy. Awesome. It is awesome. Just wait, I'll show you. Next up is Sunburst. Now this one isn't as crucial, but you need some constant healing going, and because of the rapid strikes that the dual blades put out, this is a great resiliency tool for the Phoenix dual blade blinding lights build. Glamour. 70% damage to each ailment on the enemy if at least 2 adjacent augments are green. Towards the middle or the end of the boss fight, you will see the boss ignite. If you're lucky, it'll happen in the beginning, but you want to plan for that ignition, and that's when you want to kick your damage up a notch, because it'll multiply, and the multiplication of damage is significant. Okay, and another item that I believe you should have to add again to your resiliency is the gain 72 overhealth whenever you perform a crit. More healing, survivability. It's a good thing. Okay, and the last augment that has a primary I saved to slot in specific resistance. In this case, you are looking at a void resistance one. However, if I'm going up against a specific map boss that has fire, for example, Solaris, guess what's going in there? That's right, fire resistance is going to go in that slot. I will swap them out as needed. The other 2 augments are just plain augments that I fit in there because I had 2 points left. Okay, now let's get into gameplay. Now, what you want to do, especially when starting out, is to drop that banner quickly. You want to add more crit as soon as possible, and you want to get to that 1 bar of dual blade northern technique. Once you got that 1 bar, build up your polarity attack. Once that polarity attack is full, swap. You're going to get a boost of damage, and you're going to soul shatter at the same time, and the 20% boosted damage is going to stack with Rampage. By the time that all this has happened, you should have Rampage. Now the next thing you want to do, and this is opportune and not ideal, but the next thing you want to do is get a full 4 bars of the Northern Technique and fight with that. You will find if you fight with 4 bars of Northern Technique with these weapons, you will ignite much faster, you will succeed much faster, you will crit more. It is just better to wait until you get those 4 bars. However, this build and most dual wield builds are easily overwhelmed. Multiple targets is not its thing, but because this is the Blinding Lights build, it handles it a lot better than most. Next up, with the Blinding Lights build and taking on certain types of mobs. When you go into a fray where there is a group of mobs, first thing you need to do is get that Northern Technique up. And let me tell you why. I will go into some specific skills that this build uses that will help you as you climb the tower or as you progress through maps. Once you have Northern Technique up, I want you to go for the weakest mobs you can find first. So the reason I want you to go for the small, weak mob first with the Northern Technique up is because of a skill called Spectral Takedown. So, Spectral Takedown allows you to do a takedown 30 seconds after you have killed something with your weapon techniques. So you put that Northern Technique up, you kill a small mob, you've got a 30-second window in queue to do a takedown. Now don't just do this takedown, save it for armored mobs. Dual Blades have a hard time with the mobs that are holding shields, that have heavy hit points, and that are not easily breached. Save them for them, jump to them, hit them with a takedown, get out, kill another little mob with Northern Technique up, and do the takedown again. You'll find you'll start crushing those armored mobs much easier with the Spectral Takedown. Okay, now let's get down to bosses. Bosses come down to critical hits. What I mean by this, as soon as you intro a boss, you need to put that banner down and build up your polarity bonus, your rampage bonus, and the Northern Technique. Once you've done that, and this is why this implaceable augment is so important, is because as soon as you're built up, you pop that augment. I'm sorry, you don't pop the augment. You pop your life stone and you become immune. And not only that, but your damage just shoots up. It gets massive. And that's when you go to town on the boss. Just go ham, don't even care. Kill the boss while you're invincible. Once you're not, be careful, watch out, back out, grab your life stones, and build up again. And once you can go invincible again, do it. But do not waste your life stones, especially if you've got overhealth built. Use that overhealth to build up your power. This build takes a little while to ramp up. It is not a one-hit quit, it is a build-up style. Okay. This wraps it up for the dual-wield Phoenix Blinding Lights build. Thank you for watching. If you have any questions or concerns, please leave them in the comments. I'm excited to hear from you. Goodbye.